You guys are monitoring the weather situation incoming here.
Yeah, it's all part of the same big weather system. They just had a lot more of that fuel for those really bad storms up in Wisconsin. For us here, we could get some gusty winds, but I'm not expecting anything of that magnitude. So we have some of these storms that are rolling across greater Cincinnati right now, and they could be loud at times, especially with the heavy rain and the lightning that is in it. What you see right now, we have a few different things. So all these counties that are highlighted in yellow, those are the severe thunderstorm watches for the right ingredients for some strong to severe storms. That goes until midnight. But what we're also seeing is these boxes, those severe thunderstorm warnings that are being issued along some of the stronger parts of this messy line of storms that is moving across the tri-state. So we'll zoom in here. You're looking really at a fairly fast moving storm, a storm that has sped up over the last hour or so. It's moving to the east at about 50-55 miles an hour. So it'll be moving in pretty quickly. A lot of rain, lightning, maybe some even gusty winds right along the leading edge, potentially 40-50 miles an hour. And then you'll get the heavy rain and the storm will move out. So you're looking at the storm right now with that new severe thunderstorm warning, a few of them at least from, if you're going to be traveling 71, let's say Mason over towards Wilmington, and then also from Mason, Loveland, seeing some of that heavy rain just pushing in right now. Now, if you're going to be in Hamilton County, you're not looking at as heavy of rain, but I would still be mindful of some gusty winds that are possible. I'd say closer to around 20 to 30 miles an hour there. You're looking anywhere from Norwood over towards Milford. Heads up, that storm's going to be moving into your area. And even as we look at downtown Cincinnati, probably getting some storms and some light rain in now as well. And then parts of northern Kentucky also seeing some heavy rain and storms that are developing, and that'll be pushing even over towards the 71-75 split. You'll see a wider picture here that even over into Indiana, there are some storms. I'm expecting those to drop towards the south. And what we're seeing here is this first wave that is moving in, and it's going to eat up and disturb a lot of the energy in the atmosphere. So any more of these storms that we get that are farther back over into Chicago, Lafayette, northern Indiana, that likely will just be rain and some loud storms out there, but I'm not expecting any strong storms with that. So you're going to go through our futurecast here, and you'll see as we get to about 8-9 o'clock, still going to be a lot of heavy rain, lightning, and we'll also have to watch for the potential of some of those strong storms as well. Could be seeing some, again, some strong winds rather push out of these storms that are around 40 to 50 miles an hour, and they'll push out of these storms, and storms will carry on off towards the east, but this will continue until about 9-10 o'clock. We get to about 10, I would expect most of the heavier rain and storms to be south of the river, and we get to about 11 p.m. midnight. I think a lot of our strong storm potential and even heavy rain potential will be wrapping up. We get to after midnight, there will still be some of those scattered storms out there, but those are going to be a lot more hit and miss and not as much of a messy line of storms that'll be moving in. We'll still see some of that carry on into the very early part of Tuesday, but the rest of Tuesday is looking pretty dry. So we're watching that cluster of storms moving in right now. Gusty winds, hail, heavy rain, all possible with that. And we're going to be watching that scattered storm threat until about midnight. You take a look outside right now, too, over Cincinnati. That sky looks dark. You could see a lot of rainfall in it. Temperature 82. Still have a bit of feels like temperature with that humidity still there. 71 as we go overnight tonight. Humid. We're going to be watching for some of those gusty storms. And tomorrow, eventually, we're going to be seeing a lot more sun as we go throughout the day. And it'll be feeling better with those temperatures that are in the mid 80s. Here's a look at that 7-day forecast. Comfortable temperatures and more comfortable weather with sunshine as we head into the middle part of the week.